So step one is to take our warp thread that's wrapped in a butterfly and we're going to unwind it. So you're going to take the end that's wound in the center. It is already folded in half, so we can just shake this out. And then we're going to thread the yarn with the tapestry needle. We're going to take the long end of the tail and we're going to put a bunny ear on one side. And we're going to thread the needle. And then we're going to slide this needle up to where we have it folded almost in half. One side is a little longer than the other. This way, the warp thread is a little bit more easy to manage. Now the warp is always in tension and the weft, the yarns, are not in tension. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to start to warp our loom with this thread. And we're going to make sure that it stays in tension. And we're going to think about our loom as if it were a wheel, and we're going to be putting on the spokes of the wheel. There's 23 circles, openings around our loom. So we're going to kind of visualize as if these were numbered 1 through 22. Now I'm going to be going clockwise because I'm right-handed, but you could also go in the opposite direction. If you're left-handed, it might be more comfortable for you. So we're going to start up through opening 1, and we're going to leave a bit of a tail. It's going to be about 1.5 feet long. And we'll just take our index finger and hold it there. You're going to keep it there throughout the warping process. And we're going to put on our spokes, our first and last spoke right now. And we're going to go into opening 13, which is usually directly across, but just to be sure, I'm going to count around 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And we're going to go down, starting from the top and going into the back. And you'll notice there is now 1 spoke. It's actually 2 spokes, the first and last. It's almost divided in half. You'll see one side does look a little bit bigger than the other. And then we're going to come up through 2. So now we're going to have spokes on the back of the wheel as well. So you'll see that V shape. And I'm just holding this side so that it stays in tension. Now periodically we're going to have to pause to lengthen our thread because we don't want 2 threads getting caught up on the loom. And then we're going to cross over at 2. So you'll notice an X shape on the top. And then you're going to come up at 3. You'll see there's an X on the back now. So now we have 8 spokes, 4 on the front and 4 on the back. Whatever we do on the front is going to be mirrored in the same way on the back. So we're going to go down at 15. We're coming up at 4, and we're going down at 16. Coming up at 5, and down at 17. Make sure that the warp is wrapped over the top. Come up at 6 and down at 18. Come up at 7 and down at 19. Up at 8, down at 20. Up at 9. Down at 21, up at 10, down at 22, up at 11, down at 22, up at 12. Now we're going to stop. I know there's 1 warp thread that's still missing. And the same on the back, there's one warp thread missing. We're gonna finish that right now, and how we're gonna do that is what we're gonna do, there's no more openings over here. So we only need one more warp thread to complete the spokes on the wheel. We're gonna slide it under this triangle that's directly across. You'll notice even that this triangle is smaller than the rest. So we're just gonna tuck that under the warp threads on the top and pull it up through the same direction that you came. And you'll notice all the warp threads will start to draw towards the center. And then what we're gonna do is start to weave the warp end around the warp threads by going over and then under and then over and then under. I'm going in a clockwise motion. Sometimes I go counterclockwise. It doesn't matter which way you go as long as you continue in the same direction. Going over this one, under this one, over, under. I'm still holding the other tail that hasn't been secured, keeping the tension going. So we're going to be going over and then under, over, under. And we're going to go around a couple of times just to make sure that the warp thread is secure. Okay, so I've gone around a few times. You have to go around at least once to make sure that it stays in place. And then I'm going to hitch knot it around. I'll hitch knot the tail around one of the warp threads. It doesn't matter which one. Just put a knot around the same warp thread twice. And then that way it stays secure. What I do is I tuck the tail underneath like this and then just cut it off. So the tail will just kind of be behind, tucked away. So I'm just going to cut that right off. And now we still need a warp to complete the back of the loom. But before we do the same thing on the back, it's a great time to insert the crystal. So here's the clear crystal quartz that's going to go with the Crown Chakra Weaving project. We'll just slide that crystal right in between both the front and the back warp threads. And we're going to put the little bunny ear on the end of the tail and thread the tapestry needle. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to complete this spoke on the wheel, the last spoke on the wheel, by tucking it underneath that small triangle on the opposite end of where the spoke is needed. We're going to slide it underneath there. Your threads will start to draw in towards the center, and we're going to start to weave around by going over and then under. Doesn't matter which way you go. I'm going counterclockwise this time. It doesn't matter, you can go either way. Just make sure you go around at least twice. You can draw the threads in as you move along, making sure the tension stays consistently. Okay, so I've gone around a couple of times. I'm going to secure the warp thread by hitch knotting it around one of the warp threads. Doesn't matter which one. So knot it around one of the warps a couple times, and that way it'll stay secure. I tuck it up from under and pull it through. And then I just cut it. Now we're ready to attach the yarn. We're going to start to build the weft. Now we don't need this whole entire length. There's plenty here. You can divide it in thirds, would be my recommendation. Or you can just eyeball it like this. You're going to need just enough so that you can still manage it without it being too long. And if it's too short, you're just going to have to keep changing a lot. So you want about 3 yards. So I'm still going to leave a tail, and I'll do a bunny ear. And now I can start anywhere in between the spokes. And so instead of weaving using these circles within the loom, we're going to start to weave in between where the spokes are. So these negative spaces here, these triangular shapes, that's where we're going to weave in and out. And we're going to start to connect both the top and bottom warps together. You'll notice they're lining up pretty nicely anyway. So we're going to come up through in between. And we're just going to leave a tail here. We can just hold it securely like this, like so that it doesn't slip out. We're going to come over through and then down over to the next slot. So you'll see the yarn is wrapped around one of the warps here, and then we're going to come up through both of the warp threads with the weft. And we're not putting the yarn in tension. However, it's going to be like a snake kind of slithering between. Just let it rest naturally where it wants to go. And your crystal can go really anywhere. It can fall down towards the bottom like this if it wants. If it wants to be more towards the center, it can go there. I've found that the crystal settles where it wants to settle, and then I try to keep it there. Go down through here. So we're starting to embed the crystal so it stays in place, but it won't be fully secure until we've passed around in either a clockwise or clockwise, counterclockwise or clockwise motion twice, which is considered one pass in weaving. So we're just going to keep going around in a clockwise direction or a counterclockwise direction. Making sure the yarn is not in tension. So we've made it around once now, and then when we start to go around the next time, you'll notice that we're going around in a different direction. And so where we went over the warp threads before, we're going under the warp threads now. Now, if you get out of sequence and that's not the case, it's okay. It really doesn't matter. You can go over 2 spaces, skip a space, and the imperfections add to the character of the piece, so it's really not a problem. So don't focus too much on perfection. Remind yourself of the meditation that we've been repeating. I am the essence and embodiment of love and an essential part of something much greater than myself. You know, affirmations are also a great thing to repeat when you're weaving. And a great affirmation for the Crown Chakra is, I accept who I am and honor the spirit within me. I live in joy and gratitude for the goodness that fills my life. I appreciate the beauty of Earth and I will honor and protect it as I can. The clear quartz crystal is the most prevalent crystal found throughout the entire world. Most places of the earth have the clear crystal, and it's an embodiment of light. Now I'm continuing in this clockwise rotation. We can change direction at any point and start going in a counterclockwise direction if you see fit. The crystal is an organic shape, and your crystal might be positioned in a different way where you're going to need to go around the crystal in different directions. So you are going to make design choices, and no two projects are going to look the same. Now keep in mind, this is hand spun yarn that's been plant dyed. So again, your yarn might look a little different, but it's one of a kind, and that's what makes it special and unique. The fleece from the sheep, sometimes there's hay still in with the roving. And so every once in a while you'll notice there might be a piece of hay in your yarn. I accept who I am and honor the spirit within me. I live in joy and gratitude for the goodness that fills my life. I appreciate the beauty of earth and will honor and protect it as I can. I am the essence and embodiment of love and an essential part of something much greater than myself. I'm going to come back up through the opposite direction. Right, the tail is starting to get a little short now, so I am going to tuck it under in between the weft and the front and bottom warp threads. And then I'm just going to cut that right there. I'm going to do the same with this end as well. I'm going to thread it and then just tuck it up and through. And I can just cut the tail off. And then we just have one more step. We can take the rest of our yarn cake, and this is another long piece, so I think we can fold it in half and double it up again. So we're doubling up the yarn. There's a lot to put through the tapestry needle, but it does work. So we're going to find where we would like the top to be. I'm going to pick this spot right here. And then we're just going to weave around those openings around the loom. We're going to leave a little bit of a tail. This gives it a little bit more definition. And I think it looks more balanced when there's yarn going around the edge. Well, thank you so much. Let me know what you think. Let me know, send me your feedback at info@sizzhandmade.com. Love to hear from you. Thank you so much.